Heyo, so Sir Alvin here, and today I'm going to have a new lesson today, which I am going to discuss in English and in Filipino language so that you could understand more. So I hope that you listen, and I hope it helps you learn. Anyway, let's start. So the most essential learning competency today would be to give expanded definition of words. Later, we're going to know what expanded definition is and what definition is. Now, we're going to identify the different kind of patterns in expanded definition of words, analyze the presented example of expanded definitions. Okay, so basically, according to Robert Pirsig, definitions are the foundation of reason. You can't reason without them. So basically, knowing a definition of a word or a concept or a phenomenon is very important because especially when doing a research. Okay, what is definition? So definition is a formal and concise statement of the meaning of a word, a phrase, or a concept. For example, you don't know the meaning of berate. So basically, to berate is to scold or condemn vehemently and at length. Basically, pinapagalitan ng mahaba. Sa Bicol word, tinatabuga. Yes po. So expand the definition. So what is expanded definition? It's providing specific essential properties of a word or concept to provide more information to make definition more precise. For example, there is a word that you're gonna use in your research. For example, there's a certain word, and there's a certain need for your readers to understand that word. So what you're gonna make is, what you're gonna do is to make a what? To make an extended definition so that the readers would understand more. Okay, so according to McMurray during 2017, this is the formal form of definition. So expanding a word into a sentence means a word or term plus class plus characteristics. Here's an example. Herbivores are animals that feed on plants. So what is herbivore? Herbivore is a term. Animals is the class. And the characteristic or distinguishing characteristic is it feeds on plants. Yes po. So here. So these are the patterns of extended definition. First is the etymology. Etymology is the origin of word. It is a common way to begin an extended definition. In addition to giving the origin, it can be helpful to show how the meaning or usage has changed over time. For example, we have here the term narcissist. So we always hear the term. For example, you're doing a research about narcissism, social media narcissism, and we could say you're gonna use the narcissism term a lot, and you can add the etymology of the word. So it comes from I'm not gonna read it all. You can just read. It comes from Greek word narcissus. It came from a myth. So, di ba? So ganyan. That is using etymology. Next one is exemplification. Giving examples is a common way to extend definition of word. For example, arachids such as scorpions, mites, and ticks. Ticks and spiders are creatures with two body segments, 8 legs, and no wings. So basically what did in this example, scorpions, mites, ticks, and spiders are the examples. Okay, next, comparison. If the word being defined is complex, it can be compared to something which is simpler. So for example, metals. So what metals and non-metals. Metals are considered to be electropositive in nature due to their ability to donate electrons, whereas non-metals are electronegative as they generally accept electrons. Metals are generally found in solid state, but non-metals exist in all three states of matter. Example, solid, liquid, and gas. So what are the two concepts that were compared? We have metals and non-metals. So exemplification, gumagamit ka ng example. Comparison naman, gumagamit ka ng kabaliktaran niya. Okay. I mean yung comparison. Kino-compare mo sa iba pala. Okay, when we say contrast, the word can be contrasted with others the same category which are close in meaning. So kabaliktaran. Words contrasted with others same category which are close in meaning. So wet and dry season, for example. Classification, if the word being defined can be divided into different types, classification can be useful to extend definition. For example, Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. So dementia is the word, is the umbrella term. And Alzheimer's disease is the classification. Process, if the word being defined is a process or is used to carry out a process, then definition can be extended by explaining the process. For example, oxidation. Science. Oxidation is the loss of electrons during a reaction by a molecule, atom, or ion. Oxidation occurs when the oxidation state of a molecule, an atom, or ion is increased. The opposite process is called reduction, which occurs when there is a gain of electrons or oxidation state of an atom, molecule, or an ion decreases. So here it is explained the process of oxidation. Next is negation. It is something helpful to extend the definition of the word by explaining what is not in order to explain what it is. Okay, anxiety refers to worrying about immediate or long-term future, and depression is about being hopeless, assuming that nothing positive will happen in the future for themselves or for others or the world. So anxiety is defined, and then also depression is defined so that what? So that they would not be interchanged. Okay, description, if the word being defined is something physical, then description of it, its characteristic, possibly including a diagram that might be appropriate. Abstract art. Abstract art is not about nothing. Abstract art is about form, color, line, texture, and pattern, composition, and process. These are the formal qualities of artwork because they describe what art looks like. It is created. Abstract art is an exploration of these formal qualities. So this verse 4, it is described. There is a different description. Enumeration. If the word is being defined has many characteristics, it might be helpful to enumerate, list each of these characteristics in detail. For example, Filipinos' 10 values are family orientation, joy, and humor, and etc. So it is enumerated. They are enumerated. Next, we have the sources of extended definition. So these are the things that you can find that you have to look for to add essential description to your definition to make them more precise. For example, you can search for description. Does anything related to the topic term being defined need to be described? We have here description. Next, we have process or narration. Is there some process, just like oxidation? Term should be discussed. Next, additional definition. Do unfamiliar terms occurring in the definition also need definition? For example, there's a word there that it is hard to be understood. Of course, you're also gonna define that. Historical background. Is there some history, some key individuals related to the term being defined? Would that discussion contribute to definition of term? For example, from 18th century to 14th century AD, the games were held every 4 years in Olympia, located in the western Peloponnese Peninsula in honor of the god Zeus. The first modern Olympics took place in 1896 in Athens. It features 280 participants from 13 nations competing in 43 events. So it's the history of Olympics. Cause and causes. Does the reader need to know about the causes related to the term being defined? Effects and results, consequences. Does the reader need to know about the effects related to the term being defined? Example, increase in heat, drought, insect outbreaks are all linked to climate change, have increased wildfires, declining water supplies, reduced agricultural yields, health impact in cities due to heat and flooding, erosion in coastal areas are additional concerns. So those are effects, results, and consequences of climate change. Problem and solution. Does the term being defined represent a problem or a solution? Statistics, should you discuss numerical data related to the term, define percentage and amount, etc. Basically, we have the numbers. For example, 210 million are estimated to suffer from internet and social media addiction. Internet and social addiction continue to grow as our dependence on technology increases. Estimate posit over 210 million people suffer from the internet and social media addiction worldwide. So this is an example of information that can be used in a research. Also, in defining, having extended definition of social media addiction. We have uses, apply, and application. Would it help to discuss uses or application related to the term? Similarities and analogies. Is the term similar or different from something else? Would an analogy help define a term? So there's a little bit of analysis. For example, classes, types, and categories. Are types of categories that can be divided into are there categories that the term can be divided into? Does it belong to a certain category? Would example contribute to definition of the term? Would an understanding of roots, etymology, would help help define it? So future developments, implication. For example, where another analysis. So if this is the origin, what could happen in the future? Word. Next, we have word origin. Should the future developments related to the term discussed, does it have implication, good or bad, or both? Negatives would explaining what the term is not explains, just like the examples in the pattern. Okay, disadvantage and advantages. The disadvantages. Are there advantages or disadvantages related to the term that can be discussed? For example, we have the using of nuclear power plant. For example, you're defining that. What are the advantage and disadvantage of using nuclear power plants? Okay, so that would be that. I hope that you learned. If you have any questions, you can always ask me in my Facebook Messenger. Thank you for listening.